On an ordinary Tuesday at 4:47 p.m., an honor student found himself treated like a criminal. What began as a simple walk home from debate practice turned into a confrontation that would be recorded on multiple cameras. The officers who stopped him claimed they were investigating stolen property. Property the student had purchased with his own savings weeks earlier. Within minutes, that false accusation would set off a chain of events that neither officer could have anticipated. Because the teenager standing before them wasn't just another kid they could intimidate. He was the son of Richard Beckman, one of the state's most feared civil rights attorneys. And this stop would become one of the most expensive mistakes the police department had made in years. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from. And if you hate seeing people judged before being heard, please subscribe. Kevin Beckman had his earbuds in, replaying Coach Henderson's feedback from debate practice. Your rebuttal needs more punch, Kevin. More authority. He was so focused on mentally restructuring his argument that he didn't notice the patrol car until it pulled alongside him, matching his pace. The cruiser's engine rumbled low, almost predatory. Kevin glanced over, instinct telling him something was off. Two officers sat inside, their eyes locked on him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. The car rolled forward another 20 feet before swinging abruptly to the curb, blocking his path to the bus stop. Both doors opened in synchronized motion. Officer Lawrence Cruz stepped out first, his hand already resting on his belt. He was stocky, with a jaw that looked permanently clenched. His partner, Frank Bennett, emerged from the passenger side, taller and leaner, moving with the casual confidence of someone who'd done this 100 times before. "Hold up there," Cruz called out, his voice carrying that particular edge that turned a request into an order. Kevin stopped, pulling out his earbuds. "Yes, officer." Cruz approached slowly, his eyes scanning Kevin from head to toe, lingering on the backpack. "Where are you coming from?" "School. Evangel High. Just finished debate practice." Kevin kept his voice steady, respectful. His father had taught him that much. Stay calm, stay polite, give them no excuse. Bennett circled around to Kevin's left, creating a pincer formation. "That's a nice backpack you got there. Heavy looks like. What's in it?" "Books. My laptop. School supplies." Kevin shifted the weight on his shoulders, suddenly hyper-aware of every movement he made. "Laptop," Cruz repeated, his eyebrows rising in exaggerated surprise. "That's expensive equipment for a high school kid. Where'd you get it?" The question landed like an accusation. Kevin felt his face flush, confusion mixing with the first spark of indignation. "I bought it. For schoolwork." "You bought it," Bennett echoed, his tone dripping with skepticism. He moved closer, invading Kevin's space. "With what money?" "You work." "I saved up. Birthday money, summer job at my uncle's." "Uh-huh." Cruz cut him off, exchanging a knowing glance with his partner. "See, that's interesting. Because we've been getting reports about stolen electronics from Evangel High. Laptops, tablets, phones. Ring any bells?" Kevin's stomach dropped. "I haven't heard anything about that. There weren't any announcements." "Wouldn't expect there to be," Bennett interrupted, stepping even closer. "School doesn't advertise when they've got a theft problem. Bad for the image." Kevin's mind raced. This didn't make sense. If there had been thefts, someone would have mentioned it. The principal would have sent an email. Teachers would be talking about it. He'd been at school all day. Nothing was missing. No one was talking about stolen property. "Officers, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding, son." Cruz's hand moved from his belt to hover near his radio. "We need to verify that equipment is yours. How about you set that backpack down nice and slow, and we'll take a look inside." It wasn't a request. Kevin didn't move. His backpack suddenly felt like evidence, like the weight of it alone could convict him of something he hadn't done. "Officers, I really don't think." "You match the description," Bennett said flatly, cutting through Kevin's words like they were irrelevant. Black male, 17 or 18, school uniform, carrying electronics. That's what dispatch told us. The description hung in the air between them, so Vega could fit half the students at Evangel High. Kevin felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't about stolen laptops. This was about something else entirely. What description? Kevin asked, keeping his voice level despite the anger beginning to simmer beneath his calm exterior. Who reported what's stolen? When? Cruz's jaw tightened. We're not at liberty to discuss ongoing investigations with potential suspects. Potential suspects. The words came out sharper than Kevin intended. He took a breath, reset. I'm not a suspect. I haven't stolen anything. I've been in school since 7:30 this morning. You can verify that with. Look, kid, Bennett interrupted, his patience clearly wearing thin. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. You can cooperate, let us verify your story, or we can detain you and sort it all out at the station. Your choice. Kevin's mind flashed to the group chat he'd left 20 minutes ago. His friend Marcus had sent a meme about their history teacher. His debate partner Sarah had confirmed their practice schedule for Friday. Nobody, not one person, had mentioned thefts. No warnings. No alerts. No emergency assembly announcements about keeping valuables secure. Principal Hutchins sent emails about everything. Last week they'd gotten 3 paragraphs about proper hallway etiquette. If laptops were being stolen, the entire school would know. There haven't been any thefts at Evangel, Kevin said carefully, watching both officers' faces. I would have heard about it. Everyone would have. Cruz's expression hardened. So now you're calling us liars? No, sir. I'm saying I think you might have incorrect information. Incorrect information, Bennett repeated, his voice mocking. You hear that, Cruz? The kid thinks we have incorrect information. He turned back to Kevin, stepping so close that Kevin could see the coffee stain on his collar. Let me tell you what I think. I think you're a smart kid who saw an opportunity. Maybe saw some equipment lying around, nobody watching. Figured a laptop or 2 wouldn't be missed. Happens all the time. That's not. Or maybe, Cruz added, joining his partner in the intimidation, you bought it with money from selling other people's stuff. That's a popular hustle these days. Steal from a school, flip it online, act innocent when questioned. Kevin felt his hands beginning to shake. Not from fear, from fury. From the injustice of standing here, in his debate team tie and press shirt, being accused of crimes that didn't even exist. His father's voice echoed in his head. Stay calm. Don't give them ammunition. Document everything you can. I want to see a badge number, Kevin said quietly. Both of you. The temperature of the confrontation dropped 10 degrees. Cruz's hand moved back to his belt. Bennett's face flushed red. Badge number? You're asking for my badge number. Yes, sir. I have the right to know who I'm speaking with. Kevin kept his voice steady, but his heart hammered against his ribs. Cruz let out a short, humorless laugh and moved back toward the cruiser, positioning himself at the hood. His hand didn't leave his belt. It drifted lower, resting now on the grip of his weapon. Not drawing it, not threatening directly, but the message was clear. Kevin saw it and felt his mouth go dry. You got rights, huh? Bennett began circling Kevin slowly, deliberately, like a shark testing the waters. Funny how kids who know their rights always seem to be the ones with something to hide. I don't have anything to hide. I just want to. Then open a backpack, Bennett snapped, completing his circle to stand directly behind Kevin. If you're innocent like you claim, you got nothing to worry about. Kevin turned his head to keep Bennett in his peripheral vision. I bought the laptop at Best Buy 3 weeks ago. I have the receipt. I can show you the email confirmation, the warranty registration. Email confirmation. Cruz called out from the cruiser, his hand still on his weapon. That's convenient. Easy to fake. I'm not faking anything. Kevin's voice rose slightly, frustration breaking through his careful composure. My laptop has my name engraved on it. My files, my school projects, everything is on there with my information. Bennett moved closer, his breath hot on the back of Kevin's neck. Then you won't mind us taking a look. I do mind, actually. Kevin shifted away, creating distance. You don't have probable cause to search my belongings. Probable cause? Bennett's voice dripped with condescension. He circled back around to face Kevin directly. We have reports of theft. You match the description. You're carrying expensive electronics you claim to have bought yourself. That's probable cause, counselor. That's not how probable cause works. Don't lecture me about the law, kid. Bennett jabbed a finger toward Kevin's chest. Not quite touching, but close enough to feel threatening. I've been doing this job since before you were born. Cruz pushed off from the cruiser, his hand still hovering near his weapon as he approached. Last chance. Put the backpack down. Let us verify the contents. Or do we need to make this official? Make what official? Kevin asked. Am I being detained? You're being investigated, Cruz said coldly. For a crime that didn't happen. Kevin's hands clenched at his sides. You're stopping me because I'm walking home from school with a laptop. That's not a crime. That's not suspicious. That's just what exactly? Bennett interrupted, stepping into Kevin's space again. You think we stopped you for no reason? We stopped you because you don't belong in this neighborhood carrying expensive equipment. Kids like you don't just buy $1,000 laptops. There it was. The truth beneath the pretense. Kids like you. Kevin felt something shift inside him, the last remnants of confusion burning away, leaving only crystal clear understanding. This had never been about stolen property. This had never been about reports or descriptions or investigations. This was about two officers who saw a black teenager with something valuable and decided he must have stolen it. Kevin took a slow breath, forcing his racing heart to steady. His father's voice cut through the panic. When they try to intimidate you, that's when you need to be clearest. Know your rights, Kevin. Know them cold. Officers, Kevin began, his voice quieter now, but firmer. I understand you're doing your job, but I don't consent to any search of my person or my belongings. I haven't committed a crime. If I'm not being detained, I'd like to continue on my way. The words came out exactly as his father had taught him. Polite, respectful, unambiguous. Bennett stopped circling. His eyes narrowed. You don't consent? No, sir. I don't. Cruz straightened up from his position at the cruiser, his hand still resting on his weapon. Kid, you're making this a lot harder than it needs to be. I'm exercising my constitutional rights, Kevin replied. That's not making anything hard. That's just constitutional rights. Bennett cut him off with a bitter laugh. Listen to this one, Cruz. 17 years old and already thinks he's a lawyer. My father taught me. Your father. Cruz's tone turned mocking as he walked closer. Let me guess. He told you to make things difficult for the police. Told you to refuse cooperation, obstruct investigations. That what Daddy taught you? Kevin felt heat rising to his face, but kept his voice level. He taught me that I have rights. The Fourth Amendment protects me from unreasonable searches and seizures. You need probable cause or a warrant. You have neither. We have reports, Bennett started. You have assumptions, Kevin interrupted, surprising himself with his own boldness. You assumed I stole something because of how I look. That's not probable cause. That's profiling. The word hung in the air like an accusation, which it was. Bennett's face darkened. Careful, kid. You're about 2 seconds away from finding yourself in the back of that cruiser. For what charge? Kevin asked. His hands were shaking now, but his voice held steady. Walking while black? Owning a laptop while black? Knowing my rights while black? For obstruction, Cruz growled, moving to flank Kevin's other side. They were boxing him in again, closing the space. For interfering with a police investigation. I'm not obstructing anything. I'm standing here answering your questions and declining an unlawful search. Kevin turned his head to keep both officers in view. So I'll ask again, am I being detained or am I free to go? You're being detained, Bennett said immediately. On what grounds? Reasonable suspicion of theft. Based on what evidence? Based on you matching the description of a suspect. What description? Kevin pressed. You said black male, teenager, school uniform. That describes hundreds of students at my school. That's not a description. That's a stereotype. Cruz's hand tightened on his weapon grip. Not drawing it, but the threat was unmistakable. You need to watch your mouth. I'm being respectful, Kevin said, though his heart was now thundering so hard he could hear it in his ears. I'm just asking questions that you should be able to answer if this stop is legitimate. Bennett stepped forward, his chest almost touching Kevin's shoulder. Last warning. Put the backpack down. Now. Kevin looked at Cruz, then at Bennett. 2 officers, 1 teenager. No witnesses on this stretch of sidewalk. Body cameras that may or may not be recording. The setting sun casting long shadows across the pavement. His father's voice again. If they escalate, you de-escalate. Protect yourself first. We'll fight the legal battle later. I want to call my father, Kevin said. Cruz's expression twisted into something ugly. You want to call your father? What for? So he can come down here and teach us more about the Constitution. I'm a minor, Kevin said, his voice wavering slightly now. I have the right to contact a parent or guardian before. Before what? Bennett interrupted, his patience finally snapping. Before we search a bag you claim is yours? Before we verify equipment you say you purchased? An innocent person wouldn't be this difficult. I'm not being difficult. I'm asserting my rights. You're hiding something, Cruz said, stepping closer until Kevin could smell the coffee on his breath. That's what all this rights talk is about. You're stalling. Buying time to get your story straight. Kevin's pulse pounded in his temples. This was spiraling. Every answer he gave, every right he invoked, only made things worse. The officers weren't listening. They'd already decided he was guilty, and everything he did now was just confirmation of that predetermined conclusion. I'm not hiding anything, Kevin said, hating how his voice cracked slightly. I just want to call my father. We'll call your father after, Bennett said, moving behind Kevin again. After we establish what's in that bag. After we verify your story. After we determine whether we're taking you in or letting you go. That's not. Hands on the car. Bennett's voice dropped to a command. Now. Kevin froze. What? You heard me. Hands on the patrol car. Legs spread. Standard detainment procedure. You can't. I can, and I am. Bennett grabbed Kevin's shoulder, fingers digging in hard enough to hurt. You've been uncooperative, evasive, and argumentative. That gives us reasonable suspicion to conduct a search for officer safety. Officer safety? Kevin's voice rose, fear and indignation mixing into something sharp. I'm a 17-year-old kid with a backpack. What threat do I possibly pose? Cruz moved in from the other side. That's what we're trying to determine. Could be anything in that bag. Weapon, drugs, stolen property. We don't know because you won't let us look. Because you don't have the right to look. Hands on the car, Bennett repeated, his grip tightening on Kevin's shoulder. Don't make me ask again. Kevin's mind raced. If he complied, they'd search his bag anyway, find nothing, and probably still arrest him for something they'd invent. If he didn't comply, they'd use force, and then the arrest would be guaranteed. Either way, he was trapped. I'm not resisting, Kevin said carefully, his voice shaking now. But I'm telling you clearly, I do not consent to this search. I want my father. I want a lawyer. Lawyer. Cruz laughed bitterly. Kid thinks he's under arrest already. Maybe he should be, Bennett said. Save us all the trouble. He pushed Kevin forward, harder this time. Kevin stumbled, catching himself against the hot metal of the patrol car hood. The heat seared through his shirt, but Bennett kept pressure on his back, pinning him there. Stay down, Bennett ordered. Cruz, check the bag. No. Kevin tried to turn, but Bennett's hand pressed harder between his shoulder blades. Don't move. Cruz approached Kevin's backpack, reaching for the zipper. Kevin twisted his head, watching helplessly as the officer's hand closed around the pull tab. I don't consent, Kevin said again, louder now. I do not consent to this search. Noted, Cruz said dryly, and yanked the zipper open. Cruz pulled the laptop from Kevin's backpack, holding it up like a trophy. Well, MacBook Pro. Latest model. $1,500, easy. He turned it over in his hands, examining it with exaggerated scrutiny. Serial number's been scratched off. What? Kevin tried to push up from the hood, but Bennett's hand kept him pinned. No, it hasn't. That's a lie. Don't call me a liar, kid. Cruz's voice went cold. Kevin's chest constricted. They were planting a narrative now, building a case out of nothing. The serial number wasn't scratched off. He'd registered the laptop with Apple, had the documentation on his email. But who would believe him over two officers? Bennett pulled his handcuffs from his belt, the metal clinking in the late afternoon air. All right, that's enough. We're taking you in. For what? Kevin's voice cracked with desperation now. Possession of stolen property. Obstruction. Resisting. I haven't resisted anything. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Wait. Kevin twisted his head, eyes darting between both officers. His mind screamed at him to do something. Say something. Please. I have the right to call my parent. You have to let me call my father before you arrest me. Bennett paused, the cuffs dangling from one hand. He exchanged a glance with Cruz. Cruz shrugged. State law. Minors get one call before processing. Fine. Bennett stepped back slightly, though his hand remained close to Kevin's shoulder. One call. Make it quick. Kevin straightened slowly, his hands shaking as he reached for his phone in his pocket. Bennett tensed, hand moving to his weapon, until Kevin pulled out the iPhone carefully, deliberately. Easy, Cruz warned. No sudden moves. Kevin unlocked the screen, his fingers trembling so badly he almost dropped it. He scrolled to his favorites, found Dad, and pressed call. The phone rang once, twice. Bennett leaned against the cruiser, arms crossed, a smug expression on his face. This should be good. Let's see what Daddy has to say when he finds out his kid's been caught with stolen property. Cruz chuckled. Probably tell him to cooperate. Smart parents don't teach their kids to fight the police. 3 rings. 4. Kevin's heart sank. His father was probably in a meeting, phone on silent. This was his one chance, and Kevin. His father's voice came through, slightly out of breath. Son, what's wrong? Kevin's throat tightened. Dad, I need you. I'm being detained by police. Corner of Riverside and Oak Street. Detained. The shift in Richard Beckman's voice was immediate, from concerned father to something sharper, more focused. Are you hurt? No, but they're trying to arrest me. They say I have stolen property. It's my laptop, Dad. The one we bought together. They won't listen. Don't say another word, his father cut in, his voice taking on the tone Kevin had heard him use in phone calls with clients. Not one more word. Put one of the officers on the phone. Now. Kevin looked up at Bennett, extending the phone. My father wants to speak with you. Bennett rolled his eyes. Of course he does. He took the phone, bringing it to his ear with a patronizing smile. Sir, this is Officer Frank Bennett. Your son is being detained for... He stopped mid-sentence. The color drained from his face. Cruz noticed, straightening up. Bennett. Bennett's jaw worked soundlessly for a moment. Yes, sir. Yes, I understand who you are. His eyes darted to Kevin, then to Cruz, then back to the phone. Sir, we received reports of Whatever Richard Beckman was saying, it was making Bennett shrink with every word. Bennett handed the phone back to Kevin like it had burned him, his hand trembling slightly. Cruz noticed immediately. What? Cruz asked, his voice tight. What did he say? He's on his way. Bennett's cocky demeanor had evaporated, replaced by something that looked uncomfortably like fear. He said, "Don't touch his son. Don't search anything else. Don't move." "Who the hell is he to?" "Richard Beckman," Bennett said quietly. The name landed like a physical blow. Cruz's face went pale. "The attorney?" "The attorney." Kevin watched the transformation with a mixture of relief and vindication. His father's name, just his name, had done what 15 minutes of constitutional arguments couldn't. Cruz stepped back from the backpack, as if it had become radioactive. Jesus. That Richard Beckman? The civil rights guy. The one who got Patterson PD that $18 million judgment last year, Bennett confirmed, his voice hollow. The one who ended Chief Morrison's career over the Tanner case. Shit. Cruz ran a hand over his face. Shit. Kevin slipped his phone back into his pocket, his hands still shaking, but for different reasons now. The officers weren't looking at him anymore. They were looking past him, down the street, waiting for the inevitable. It took 7 minutes. A black Mercedes sedan pulled up to the curb, its arrival precise and deliberate. The driver's door opened, and Richard Beckman emerged in a charcoal three-piece suit that probably cost more than both officers made in a month. His leather briefcase caught the late afternoon sun as he straightened his tie, his movements unhurried, controlled. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. Kevin had seen his father in court mode before, but never directed at someone else. Never as backup. Never as protection. Richard Beckman walked toward them like a man who owned the street, the city, the very air they were breathing. "Kevin," he said, his voice calm, but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut. "Are you hurt?" "No, sir." "Have they placed hands on you?" "Yes, sir. Officer Bennett pushed me against the car." Richard's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He turned to the officers, and Kevin watched both of them actually take a step back. "Gentlemen," Richard said, the word dripping with anything but courtesy. "I'm Richard Beckman, and I'm this young man's attorney, as well as his father." He reached into his jacket. Both officers flinched and produced a business card. "Before we continue this conversation, I need to understand something. What probable cause did you have to detain my son?" Bennett opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "I asked you a question, officer." Richard's voice didn't rise, but the temperature around them seemed to drop. "What probable cause?" "We received reports," Cruz started. "Reports of what? From whom? When? Be specific." "Stolen laptops from Evangel High School." "Really?" Richard pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "Interesting. Because I'm looking at the school's website right now, and there are no alerts about thefts. No parent notifications. No police reports filed with the district." He looked up, his eyes cold. "So let me ask again, what reports?" Silence. "Or perhaps," Richard continued, taking a step closer, "you saw a black teenager with expensive electronics and simply assumed he'd stolen them. Is that what happened, officers?" Cruz looked at Bennett. Bennett looked at his shoes. Kevin had never been more grateful for his father's existence. "I thought so," Richard said softly. "Now, let's talk about what happens next." Richard Beckman set his briefcase on the hood of a patrol car, the same hood where his son had been pressed down moments earlier, and opened it with deliberate precision. He pulled out a yellow legal pad and a pen, then looked at both officers with the kind of calm that preceded catastrophe. "Badge numbers," he said. "Both of you." Bennett hesitated. Cruz shifted his weight. Neither moved. "I can request them through a formal complaint," Richard continued, his tone conversational, almost pleasant, "or you can provide them now. Either way, I will have them. Your choice." 7429, Bennett muttered. "Speak up, officer. I need to hear you clearly." 7429. Richard wrote it down, his penmanship precise. "And you?" 6183, Cruz said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Officer Frank Bennett, badge 7429. Officer Lawrence Cruz, badge 6183. Richard made a note, then looked up. What time did you initiate this stop? I don't. Approximately 4:47, Kevin offered quietly. Richard checked his watch. And it is now 4:58. 11 minutes. He wrote that down too. Supervisor's name and contact information. Sergeant Holland, Bennett said. I didn't ask where he is. I asked for his contact information. Cruz rattled off a phone number. Richard wrote it down, then pulled out his phone and took a photograph of both officers standing in front of their cruiser, their badge numbers visible. What are you? Bennett started. Documenting, Richard said simply. Now, let's review what occurred here in the last 11 minutes. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. He didn't wait for confirmation. You were walking home from school when these officers stopped you without reasonable suspicion. They accused you of possessing stolen property based solely on the fact that you, a black teenager, were carrying a laptop. We had reports. Cruz tried again. Richard held up one finger. The officer fell silent. They demanded to search your belongings without probable cause or a warrant. When you, exercising your Fourth Amendment rights, declined to consent to an unlawful search, Officer Bennett physically restrained you. Richard's eyes moved to Bennett. You placed your hands on a minor, pressing him against your vehicle. You opened his backpack without consent, without a warrant, without exigent circumstances. We were ensuring officer safety. From a 17-year-old honor student carrying textbooks, Richard's voice remained level, but there was steel underneath. You had no reasonable belief that he was armed or dangerous. You had no legal justification for the search. What you had was an assumption based on racial profiling. Bennett's face flushed red. Now wait I'm not finished. Richard consulted his notes. You then falsely claimed that the serial number on my son's laptop had been scratched off, a demonstrable lie that I will easily disprove with Apple's documentation. You prepared to arrest him on fabricated charges. And when he invoked his right to contact a parent, you mocked him. Richard paused, letting that sink in. Did I miss anything, Kevin? Officer Bennett said kids like you don't buy expensive laptops, Kevin added, his voice stronger now, with his father beside him. Richard's pen moved across the page. Kids like you. Would you care to clarify what you meant by that, Officer Bennett? Bennett said nothing. I thought not. Richard closed his legal pad. Here's what's going to happen now. The body camera footage hit the news 3 days later. Kevin watched it on his laptop, the same laptop Cruz had claimed was stolen, as the local news anchor narrated over the grainy video. There he was, pressed against the patrol car hood. There was his voice, clear and steady, repeating, I don't consent, while Bennett ignored him. There was the moment Cruz claimed the serial number was scratched off, a lie the camera angle disproved. The video went viral within hours. 2 million views by midnight. 5 million by morning. News outlets across the state picked it up. Then national networks. CNN ran a segment. MSNBC interviewed his father. The hashtag Justice for Kevin trended for 3 days straight. Students at Evangel High wore buttons with Kevin's face. Teachers assigned essays about civil rights and due process. Principal Hutchins issued a formal statement condemning the officer's actions. The school board sent a letter of support to the Beckman family. But none of that compared to what came next. The Department of Justice opened a federal investigation into the police department's practices within a week. They uncovered a pattern. 17 similar stops in the past 2 years, all involving Black or Latino teenagers, all initiated without probable cause. Cruz and Bennett weren't anomalies. They were symptoms. Both officers were suspended without pay pending the investigation. 2 weeks later, they were fired. Richard Beckman filed a civil rights lawsuit on behalf of his son. Violation of Fourth Amendment rights, illegal search and seizure, assault, battery, false imprisonment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The city's attorneys tried to fight it. They reviewed the body camera footage. They deposed witnesses. They brought in experts. Then they quietly requested a settlement conference. The meeting took 45 minutes. The city offered $2.4 million. Richard Beckman accepted, with conditions. Mandatory bias training for every officer in the department. New protocols for stops involving minors. Quarterly reporting on stop demographics. An independent civilian oversight board with subpoena power. The city council voted to approve it unanimously. Kevin donated half his settlement to the ACLU. The other half went into a trust for college. Harvard had already sent a recruitment letter. So had Yale and Columbia. His story had made him visible in ways he'd never imagined, both good and complicated. But the moment that mattered most came 3 months later, at the Regional Debate Championship. Kevin stood at the podium in a gymnasium full of students, teachers, and judges. His topic, systemic reform. Why individual justice requires institutional change. He spoke about that afternoon on Riverside Avenue, about Cruz and Bennett, about the assumptions that turned a walk home into a civil rights violation, about his father's arrival and the power of documentation, about the settlement and the reforms. But mostly, he spoke about the hundreds of other kids who didn't have an attorney for a father, the ones who didn't know their rights, the ones whose stops didn't get filmed, didn't go viral, didn't result in justice. Individual victories matter, Kevin said, his voice carrying to the back of the gymnasium. But they're not enough. The system that allowed those officers to stop me without cause is the same system that allows it to happen every single day to people who don't have the resources to fight back. Real justice isn't about winning my case. It's about changing the system so there are no more cases like mine. The audience was silent for 3 heartbeats after he finished. Then they erupted. Kevin won first place. But more importantly, he'd found his voice and learned exactly how to use it. His father, watching from the audience, couldn't have been prouder.